Hey everybody, welcome back for another game break. So we got the Mass Effect Legendary Edition changes here in the original versus remaster performance preview that IGN did. So there's this trailer, and then there was also a detailed breakdown of all the changes and modifications that they've made as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to watch the trailer first. We'll go over it together, see all of what's going on. Sometimes it's better to see than to read, right? And then we'll go over the detailed breakdown after that and see if there's anything in the trailer missed. I'm just really curious to see what they do with these games, honestly. And I'm just really looking forward to getting to this universe again and experiencing this epic story with these great characters. And you see how the visuals have upgraded and the gameplay too. I keep forgetting that they've done major tweaks to the gameplay as well, especially for one in the Mako controls. So let's check it all out and hopefully we like what we see.
Mass Effect, released in
2007, lighting's definitely better in Legendary Edition.
Players expected from RPGs during the 360 era. It was entirely voice acted, used a branching conversation system that allowed for different outcomes in each situation, and promised to have narrative ties that would last the entire trilogy. Pitched over dinner by Casey Hudson as a sci-fi RPG, he believed that it would become a mainstream phenomenon and a must-have game for the Xbox 360.
Wow, confident that was going to be the case.
Fast forward 14 years
wasn't
later,
wrong.
And we're on the precipice of seeing Mass Effect Legendary Edition released
Yeah, well, that
on
looks
modern-day
better.
consoles and PC to much fanfare, meaning I'd say the entire BioWare team delivered on that goal. We've been given early access to some footage that showcases dramatic updates to the original Mass Effect and a peek at how Mass Effect 2 and 3 will also be improved. But let's start with a closer look at the original, the one that needed the most care, to take a look at how it's been updated. Beginning with a combat sequence, we get our first look at the updated HUD, and yes, your weapons will still use a cooldown system and not thermal clips like in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
That would be a
In addition,
huge
the weapons
change
use a
for them.
different reticle, and there are no longer class-specific weapon restrictions that makes certain guns unusable for certain classes.
Well, that's good.
But let's talk about the textures for a second. Using AI upscaling, the new look of this garage scene on Noveria is night and day when compared to the 360. The specifics may appear subtle, but one I can point out in this scene is a much more natural, soft effect of the lighting. They're using ambient occlusion in the scene, which you can see more clearly on the boxes that emit shadows.
Oh, it's been so long since I can be playing a new game.
From combat for a moment, we also got a tour of the main hub in Noveria. This footage opens with an amazing look at the new female Shepard model as she exits the elevator. The character models looked a lot better in Mass Effect.
I never played as
Fem
Shep, but for all you Fem Shep fans,
start Mass Effect
I'm sure that's a welcome
as
addition.
that iconic female Shepard. The lighting and camera placement is changed here too, putting you a little bit closer to the characters as they move through the levels or down elevators. The Noveria port has been heavily reworked in Legendary Edition, and you see some small elements as you exit the elevator. Couches have cushions, and the textures on the walls and concrete
gotta have
floors
cushions.
have been reworked. In the main hallway, they've added light fixtures across the entire room and even removed large pieces of geometry that previously would break up your path. Here's what BioWare's Mac Walters had to say about why the wall was removed.
The wall and why the wall came down in Noveria, right? You'll see them probably more so throughout Mass Effect 1. They were really just meant for streaming occlusion, essentially sightlines, right? In large open spaces, which we had quite a few of in Mass Effect 1. Whatever the game has to render is going to start to hit your performance. So when you have a wall there, when you come off the elevator, it just means that you don't have to show the whole level and load the whole level and have everything on screen as soon as you get off the elevator. And
Gotcha.
so the art team wanted to try taking it out, and it worked great.
No, it's something that never would have occurred to me.
When you reach the garage with the Mako inside, you'll also notice an additional lighting in the room and objects that have been completely remodeled. Even on the Mako, there's texture and dirt on the tires, and it looks a lot more rugged and used. Looking at the provided Mako footage is really interesting to me because this is one of the key areas of the
I almost thought I liked the original look better.
The original Mako was floaty, bouncy, and while I can't comment on how the Mako controls now, as I haven't played it yet, we did get to see two driving sections. The first is directly after you leave the Noveria port, and again, the new textures
okay, it obviously looks
and
way
ice
better,
covered
sorry, in the
mountains
Legendary
are
there.
immediately visible, but if you watch the Mako drive, you might notice some changes, like a boost feature. Here's BioWare producer Renata Cronin on how the Mako changed.
It is so much better now. We've made it better in that it handles better, it targets better. You know, we changed up.
Yes, it wasn't
reticle,
the
when you're shooting with the Mako now,
greatest thing to drive in the whole world, but it was still fun.
Which is very
I didn't
awesome.
have
It didn't
super
used to
big
do that
complaints about the
before.
Mako.
You know, we've added boosters to it as well. We're still in the process of sort of tweaking it a little bit. So this clip right here.
It was kind of fun how
really
outrageous
representative
the physics of the
product,
vehicle
but
were,
it's
honestly.
got all the major improvements that we wanted. Now we're just playing around with, you know, how weighty does it feel? Because it's still a little bit floaty, as you can see. But
Yeah, tiny bit. You
now
can
it
kind of see it.
feels
It's
more,
it's
you know, like
almost
you're
wanting
driving
to
a tank
wanting
and
to leave
not,
gravity.
you know, the car that floats for some reason.
Later, we also got a peek at a Thresher Maw fight on Antibar that shows another gameplay addition. Yes, the Thresher Maw still moves around, but now with a trail so you have a clearer picture of where they're headed with each
Gotcha.
movement. That should result in fewer instant deaths. There's also a new sensory tentacle phase to the encounter where you need to avoid the maw and the tentacles as you battle. At the finale, you can notice the plumes of smoke have a lot more body to them also.
Man,
I'm a
I
little more
totally-
hopeful about the Mako after seeing
Totally
this
forget
footage.
these encounters.
All of this is on top of massively decreased loading times provided by hardware advances like faster hard drives.
Naturally.
This is a side-by-side shot of the original and Legendary Edition. As you can see, you can choose to instantly be at your destination, while in the original, you would be waiting for a significant period of time.
Oh, wow. That is quite severe. I do not remember them being that bad.
And two smaller but important systems we got to look at were the inventory system and character creator. So the inventory system has been reworked, and it seems you can more easily sort, dismantle, and compare your gear for you and your squad mates. This also applies to the store, which looks to give you different view options depending on what you're looking to buy and sell.
Okay.
The character creator, which allows you to create a character before you begin playing any of the games in the trilogy, is also drastically updated. The original benefits the most from this, and I've gone back to see how close I can get the 2007 character models to the new models, but the options just aren't comparable. There are more hairstyles, more makeup options, more skin tone options, and you're really allowed to go all out.
I mean, that's great. I just always went classic Shepard. Always. I just really like the default character model.
Looking at Mass Effect 2, we didn't see nearly as much, but there's a lot more detail in what we did see than I expected. The outfits have been reworked, meaning no more orange suits.
And all
Yeah,
the
that
outfits available in
graininess
Mass
is
Effect
gone.
3 are now available in Mass Effect 2.
And while I don't have any fish at this point in my Mass Effect 2 save, what you should really be looking at is in the new game, as there are improved reflections on the tank itself.
So what we're doing there is instead of doing a screen space reflection, we're doing what's called a render to texture. So you're basically just re-rendering the world in a texture in that space. And so you have to be very careful where you can use them, because you can imagine a scenario
They
where
really
you're
are
in the wrong space, you're
keeping
basically paying
close
for your
attention
render,
to the
right?
details
rest
of
of the Normandy
things with
benefits
reflections and wall
tremendously from the
replacement
baseline.
and
In Lair of the Shadow Broker, the lighting
More
has changed
lighting or
as you can
improved
see from
lighting.
distance, but most changes in this expansion are subtle. The 4K assets are very apparent, and they may have added a depth of field effect, which I noticed on the
Yeah, there's
ship.
quite a bit
In
more
addition,
detailing.
there are a few moments where the new lighting reflects off of surfaces, like at the end of this footage when the array is retracted.
Here's BioWare producer Brennan Holmes with a few thoughts.
Mostly it's just graphical improvements here, right? So like on the gameplay side, it's mostly just been bug fixes for Mass 2. We're pretty happy with kind of where Mass 2 is at, but you can see sort of improved visual
Obviously,
effects
it's a little
here,
bit more
lighting's a lot
lens
better.
flare in
I think
this
I could
scene
probably talk a little
too.
bit about the DLC stuff as well in here. So it's now embedded in various stores, or you can get it through upgrades in the Normandy. Like DLC is always the fun time when it's, you know, you got all your tools and everything, and everyone just kind of goes crazy. And I remember them pitching this concept around like, yeah, let's have a fight on the outside of the ship, and it'll be like, you know, in the lightning storm with all this stuff going on. And that was just a really cool concept.
wow. Like I got
And
fucked.
last but certainly not least is Mass Effect 3, which does benefit from all the texture updates, character model updates, and anti-aliasing improvements. But because it was so polished at launch, I asked BioWare what players can expect for the third entry in the series. Here's what Mac Walters had to say about this already stellar entry.
I think it's in the sort of global improvements where you're going to feel it in ME3. The interesting thing there is we knew that Mass Effect 1 would need the most work, but we also wanted to leave everything on the table if there were things that we really wanted to improve there. And the more we sort of dug into 3, we felt like, look, we are more at risk of taking something that was pretty damn good and making it worse, or just making a lateral move where it's different, but is it actually better?
Yeah, if it ain't
A lot
broke,
of
don't
times
fix
we
it.
said,
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You know, gameplay, everything is good the way it is. There were bugs, and we couldn't fix all of them, but we fixed a lot of them, sort of thing, and we would find them all throughout all 3 games, sort of thing. So I think that's another thing. And you probably would go, oh yeah, this feels less buggy. But if you were to play them,
Now, I don't even remember a
you'd go,
ton of bugs in the Mass Effect games. I really don't.
Putting them all together with all of the DLC, including things like, you know, armor packs and alternate appearances and stuff like that. And when you get all of that content together, and there is less of that sort of what I would call friction in Mass Effect 1 that kind of is like, oh boy, I like it, but it's really making me work for it. It does feel like a whole experience. It together feels very obviously modernized, but it just feels more than more than some of its parts.
I was already sold on playing through the series once more, and the
Naturally.
Legendary Edition gives me the perfect opportunity.
Everything sounds pretty good. Everything looks pretty good. In some of the scenes, it almost felt like, yes, the graphics were improved, but it almost, what's the way to put this? It's almost like the life was missing from some of the scenes. Oh, it's really hard to describe. Like the soul been taken out of a few of those scenes. I don't know how to say it properly. But anyway, all in all, I still think it looks pretty damn good. I'm super curious about Mass Effect 1 more than anything. 2 and 3, I felt played solidly at launch, obviously. And I figured there wasn't going to be too much they could really do with those games. And there's a detailed breakdown of some of the other changes, so let's check that out. I don't need luck, I have ammo. So it says, combat in the Mass Effect trilogy has evolved across the series, with each game's experience being different. We wanted to make the experience better across the board, but we didn't want to unnecessarily change what our fans have come to love about each game. That proved a unique challenge, as the first game is quite different from the second and third in terms of gameplay and combat. Absolutely. Mass Effect was heavily influenced by traditional RPG mechanics like the randomness of a dice roll and pen and paper stat building. As a result, weapons in Mass Effect often felt less accurate and reliable than the gunplay in Mass Effect 2 and 3. Definitely. I couldn't even use sniper rifles in that game for the most part. I found them way too annoying. I'm sure there was a way maybe to tweak them to a way where they were super viable, but I just used the assault rifle the entire game. And then I switched to sniper rifles for 2 and 3. We heard the consistent feedback that it was pretty frustrating to take a few shots with an assault rifle and suddenly have the reticle enlarged to span a large portion of the screen. So we looked at tuning the mechanics to provide better handling without outright scrapping the spirit of the original games. Okay. Da-na-na. In the first Mass Effect, accuracy, including reticle bloom and weapon sway, has been tuned across all weapons to allow players to maintain more consistent firepower while still managing their shots / overheat meter. Yeah, I remember with the overheat meter in Mass Effect 1, you could get it to such a point that I would have an assault rifle and I would never need to stop shooting, because I was able to tune it in such a way that the overheat meter it would never get to that point and would just stand there blasting away, never having to reload. But that was fun in its own way. When you're able to get to a point in the game where you can actually manipulate the system like that, I found it quite fun. I really enjoyed it. So I wonder if they will tweak it to the degree that you can't do that anymore. I'm curious. We've also improved the aiming down sights ADS camera view to be tighter on combat so that ADS is more accurate like the second and third games. Okay. And we've improved the aim assist to provide better precision. These small behind the scenes changes collectively make combat much snappier putting more control into the player's hands. Abilities have also been rebalanced in the first game. For example, the immunity ability now grants a powerful defensive buff that lasts a brief period of time instead of being a small buff that lasts indefinitely. Gotcha. The following overview lists gameplay changes we made specifically to the first Mass Effect, with the goal of bringing it a bit more in line with the rest of the trilogy. Because I think my buddy's favorite is Mass Effect 1, because of how much more like an RPG it is. I think mine's 2. I just like the combat way better in 2. And I just love the characters and how everything looks so much better. All right, so Shepard can now sprint out of combat. Melee attacks are now mapped to a button press rather than automatically occurring based on proximity to an enemy. Didn't really use melee attacks super much. Weapon accuracy and handling has been significantly improved. Yep. Vertical bloom is more controlled. Yep. Weapon sway removed from sniper rifles. I actually might try using sniper rifles this time. I just found them so annoying in Mass Effect 1. Aiming down sights / tight aim camera view has been improved. Improved aim assist for target acquisition. All relevant enemies now take headshot damage in the first game. Oh, they didn't in the first game? Wow. Previously, some did not, including human enemies. Oh, wow. Ammo mods, any organic, any synthetic, etc., can now drop throughout the whole game. Previously, these stopped dropping at higher player levels. Oh, really? They're now also available to purchase from merchants. All weapons can be used by any class level penalty. Awesome. Love that. Just let us use whatever the hell we want. Specializations, the ability to train / upgrade certain weapons, are still class specific. So obviously we can use whatever weapon we want with every class. It's just certain classes are still going to use certain weapons better than others. Weapons cool down much faster. Great. Some of them took so goddamn long. Medi-gel usage has been improved. I feel like I had a problem with that in the first game too. Base cooldown reduced. Leveling benefits increased. Increased Liara's bonus to cooldowns. Inventory management improvements. Items can now be flagged as junk. All junk items can be converted into Omni-Gel or sold to merchants at once. Inventory and stores now have sorting functionality. Awesome. Some abilities have been rebalanced. Weapon powers, i.e. those that are unlocked in each weapon skill tree, have been improved. Effectiveness / strength is increased. Duration reduced in some cases. Heat now resets on power activation. Additional gameplay improvements. If this is a war, I'll need an army or a really good team. Beyond general gunplay changes, we have made some specific changes to encounters, enemies, and how you engage in combat. We found a few opportunities to bring the first game in line with the second and third games. We also found some systems across the whole trilogy that needed a tune-up. I guess maybe what I'm trying to say about the Legendary Edition is, while overall it looks good, it almost looks a little plasticky, if that makes sense. Almost a little soulless at times. Maybe I'm reading too much into things, but let's keep looking. Without spoiling too much for new players, one example is the boss encounter on Noveria. The boss room has been slightly reworked, keeping it very familiar but making it less cramped. You'll also be much less prone to being thrown around by biotic abilities. Other targeted combat updates we've made include squad mates can now be commanded independently of each other in the first Mass Effect, the same way you can command them individually in Mass Effect 2 and 3. Well, thank God for that change. Some boss fights and enemies in the first game have been tweaked to be fairer for players, but still challenging. Cover has been improved across the trilogy. Additional cover added to some encounters. Entering and exiting cover is now more reliable. XP has been rebalanced in the first game. Ammo drops have been rebalanced in Mass Effect 2. Cool. Now, one thing I feel about Mass Effect 1 from when I can remember off the top of my head is it definitely felt a little clunky at times. Definitely wasn't the smoothest experience. So I'm really looking forward to those changes. They sound pretty good. As the final gunplay change, we also tweaked ammunition in Mass Effect 2. We found that ammo was spawning too scarcely in the original game. Maybe it's because I was using a sniper rifle. I didn't really have too much of a problem. So we've increased the drop rate for ammo in Mass Effect 2, particularly when using a sniper rifle, since that had a reduced ammo drop rate in the original release. Really? I don't... Did it? Maybe I was having to switch weapons after a certain point after using my sniper rifle. We'll see. The Mako. It's got heart, you know. But of course, we got to talk about the infamous M35 Mako. The legendary vehicle from the first Mass Effect has been calibrated to perform better than ever. In the original game, the physics tuning for the Mako made it feel too light and bouncy. Hells yes. But it was fun as shit, I felt. Even at times becoming uncontrollable. but it's now a much smoother ride while still being lovable, like before. Yeah, see, so they know people kind of like that feeling of the vehicle. Yes, you can still drive off cliffs to your heart's content. Its functionality has also been improved with faster shield charging and new thrusters added to the rear, allowing for a speed boost while you're inevitably trying to scale up the side of a near vertical cliff. We all do it. This boost recharge is independent from the jump jets on the vehicle's underside, so you can still use both at once or separately. Cool. These calibrations you can expect to experience when driving the Mako. Improved handling, physics tuning, improved to feel weightier and slide around less, improved camera controls, resolved issues preventing the Mako from accurately aiming at lower angles, shields recharge faster, new thrusters added for a speed boost, this cooldown is separate from the jump jets. Yep. XP penalty while the Mako has been removed. Oh, there's a penalty? Yeah, I think so. Touching lava no longer results in an instant mission failure, instead deals damage over time. Okay, that's cool because I feel like I got a few of those. Unifying and modernizing the trilogy. Well, what about Shepard? For the Legendary Edition, our goal was to tune up the trilogy and make it more consistent from game to game while honoring the things that made each unique. For example, we've unified Shepard's customization options in the character creator and even added some new options like additional skin tones and hairstyles. You can use the same character creator code seen bottom left in the image below across all 3 games. Cool. Meaning your Shepard can now have a consistent appearance across the trilogy, or you can choose to change their appearance at the start of each title. Customization options and character appearances have also been improved with updated textures and hair models. What? We've also added the Mass Effect Genesis comics by Dark Horse into the base experience before Mass Effect 2 and 3 as an optional experience so players can make choices from previous games no matter where they choose to start. Oh, cool. Of course, the Legendary Editions includes a variety of additional enhancements. Here are some of the things you can look forward to. New unified launch for all 3 games. Includes trilogy-wide settings for subtitle languages. Awesome. Saves are still unique to each game and can be managed independently of each other. Updated character creator options. Yep. Femshep for Mass Effect 3 is a new default female in all 3 games. Yep. Achievements across the trilogy have been updated. New achievements have been added to the trilogy. Progress for some achievements now carries over across all 3 games, e.g. kill 250 enemies across all games. Oh, cool. Achievements were streamlined into one and made redundant. Achievements that were streamlined into one and made redundant were removed. Gotcha. And achievements have had their objectives, descriptions, and their names updated. Integrated weapons and armor downloadable content packs. Weapons and armor downloadable content packs are now integrated naturally into the game. They're obtainable via research or by purchasing them from merchants as you progress throughout the game, rather than being immediately unlocked from the start. This ensures overall balance and progression across Mass Effect 2 and 3. Oh, that's cool. That's clever of them to do. Recon Hood, Mass Effect 2, and Cerberus are Ajax and Mass Effect 3 are available at the start of each game. Gotcha. Additional gameplay and quality of life improvements. Audio is remixed and enhanced across all games. Hundreds of legacy bugs from the original release are fixed. And native controller and 21:9 display. Support on PC with DirectX 11 compatibility. Galaxy at War rebalancing. Consider yourself reinstated, Commander. As Commander Shepard, you're tasked with the hardest mission of all, defeating the Reapers and saving the galaxy from annihilation. This comes to a head in Mass Effect 3 when the galaxy unites, but your choices from across the trilogy lead you there and determine who fights at your side. The Galaxy at War feature puts you in the heart of the Reaper War from the Normandy's Combat Information Center, which has been rebalanced in the Legendary Edition. For example, galactic readiness is no longer impacted by external factors that aren't part of the collection, like multiplayer or the old companion app for Mass Effect 3. I never did the companion app, but I did play the multiplayer. Too bad it didn't change the ending to one that we all enjoyed. Anyway, however, that doesn't necessarily mean defeating the Reapers will be easy. The more content you complete across the entire trilogy, the more likely you'll be prepared for the final fights in its conclusion. If you only play Mass Effect 3, you'll have to do just about every option available in the game to be eligible for an ending that doesn't result in massive galactic losses. Playing the first 2 games and carrying over your progress is the most reliable way to get good results in the final hours of the Reaper War. For comparison, if you previously played Mass Effect 3 with the extended cut, which included galactic readiness balancing, fully preparing for the final fight will be more difficult, fully preparing for the final fight will be more difficult to achieve in the Legendary Edition. And on that note, the extended cut ending is now the game's default finale. Thank God for that. However, readying your intergalactic armies will be made a bit easier by a number of critical bug fixes and back-end improvements made by the Paragon Renegade system Mass Effect 2. We resolved some legacy issues that inhibited accurate reputation stats from being displayed, and outright prevented certain dialogue options from being selectable when they should have been. Because of this, key moments that have been notoriously difficult to achieve in Mass Effect 2 and impacted Mass Effect 3 can now be completed more reliably, leading to better results in the story's final act. Cool. You know, for old time's sake, getting to go back to the roots of Mass Effect franchise, our roots as a team, now celebrating our 25th anniversary, has been an incredibly nostalgic and emotional experience for us. And we're sure a lot of you feel similarly when you get to play the Legendary Edition. We've heard from so many of you that you want to play the original trilogy today, either for the first time or, well, let's just say again. This will be again for me. We don't need to keep count. Returning to where it all began as members of our team revisited the work they did over a decade ago has been a bit surreal, but it felt like the right thing to do. A passion project from us to thank you for the many years of incredible support, and maybe to help tide you over until the next game too. There's more to come, including a deeper dive into the visual changes we've made, so stay tuned for that. Also, thanks for requesting this so much that you practically willed it into existence. It's meant a lot. From all of us at the Mass Effect team, good luck, Commander. I am hoping, more than anything, this is the great turnaround for BioWare. I am hoping that this is the beginning of a new golden age for the studio. The time when they almost could do no wrong, and they just launched hit after hit after hit. I would love to see that old BioWare return, especially with Anthem being done and gone. Their focus can be shifted to other more important projects. Hopefully, I feel bad for all of you Anthem fans. I never played it. I was gonna get into it, but lo and behold, they abandoned it, and you know, we don't get the Anthem that we all deserve to, and we don't get the Anthem that team deserved to make, which is unfortunate. But anyway, once again, hoping this turns out really well. By and large, I am happy with everything I see. There are some things that do worry me, mostly from a Mass Effect 1 perspective. I'm just more than anything curious about that game in terms of how it handles, how it looks, if the soul remains in that game. From everything we saw for Mass Effect 2 and 3, it still looks really good. They've just done a little bit of tweaking to it, whereas obviously Mass Effect 1, there's quite a bit more in terms of severe changes from what I've seen so far. But all in all, I'm liking the quality of life decisions they've made so far when it comes to inventory, some of the gameplay with the reticules and the heat sinks and all that. But all in all, I'm liking, once again, by and large, everything I see. I like the fact we can use any weapons for any classes now in Mass Effect. That's cool. They're obviously trying to fix the gunplay a little bit because there were some weapons I just had no fun using at all. So hopefully I'll get to try that, because I would love to be a sniper consistently for Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I always felt weird being a soldier and then going to sniper rifles later. It's just, I just had no fun with them at all in Mass Effect 1. The Mako, we'll see what people think about that. Some people have a lot of nostalgia for how crazy that thing drove in the original series, myself included, but I'm totally open to any changes they want to make to that. Yeah, more control over squad mates, another awesome addition. It looks good. Well, I feel like I'm just being almost nitpicky at this point if there's things I don't like. It's just, yeah, Garrus looks a little plasticky in this little screenshot here a little bit. But that could just be maybe the lighting or this particular still. We'll see. But all in all, what do you guys think? Are you excited for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition? Can't wait. I'm really wondering how I'm going to review this game, whether I'm going to review the whole set or if I'm going to go individually, tribute review style. I might just do the Mass Effect Legendary Edition review by itself and then maybe do tribute review after that for each game. We'll see. Thank you for joining me for this game break, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really like going over the information and seeing what changes are being made. And May, guys, it's almost here. Anyway, thanks again. Talk to you later.